Welcome back to Hot Mic on this hot day. Welcome back in, Maya.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back.
Yes.
It is a hot day. Did you sauna today?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm going to do it in the evening time.
Is that when you prefer to
I do.
the hot box?
Yeah, I like the evening time. I think I just feel more receptive to the relaxation. Maybe if I owned one like really, close proximity, I might consider doing, morning time or evening time or something like that. Like both at the same time.
Yeah.
Or same day, I mean. But I don't know. There's something about the evening times that just feel really great. I also love doing a dark sauna.
Oh, okay.
All dark, no lights.
Lights off. Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah, womb status.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Because I think a lot of I think we've talked about this before, that high emphasis of like what you get rid of in the sauna, but for me it's about like bringing things closer and like focusing on what I want. So there's something about darkness that just makes that a lot easier.
I like that. And I can feel kind of drained after a good sauna session, especially if I'm going for it. And if I've got something important to do after that, it might be zapped.
Yeah.
So,
and it kind of, I feel like it ruins the point of it. Like there's nothing better than like sauna and then a good night's sleep. Like what a luxurious day.
Absolutely.
So
I was in the sauna today and I was chatting up a guy who was clearly a former athlete, and he was in his 50s. But we were talking about sauna usage, how often, frequency that we do it. And he started talking about his buddy. This guy was from Southern California. And he was like, I have a friend in Hawaii that, and he starts breaking down his protocol. And he's like, so he gets in the sauna for 20 minutes, and then he does the cold plunge tries to be in there for about 10 minutes, then gets back into the sauna. And I interrupt him jokingly, and I say, are you friends with Laird Hamilton? And he goes, yes, my friend is Laird Hamilton. And I was about to get out. Like, I was cooked.
Right.
And I was like,
and then you got a second wind. Yeah.
You're friends with Laird Hamilton?
Wow.
He was like, I don't know, friends is maybe going too far, but we knew each other back in the day, especially in the 80s when he was a hot shit in the big wave surfing community, and certainly carried that into the 2000s. And but he was a competitive swimmer. So they just like ran in the same circles, but when he goes back, like he has mutual friends. But oh my God, I thought that was so cool. And the fact that I guessed it, because he was saying, I was like, well, it sounds like he's doing the Laird regimen.
Right.
But it literally, that was his buddy.
Wow. You got to get him on the pod.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm one removed from Laird. Because I was like, no, I know Laird. Like, I watch his videos he puts out. I think his training protocol that he does with the swimming pool, and he keeps an assault bike right next to the pool, and you're doing weight training and resistance training submerged in water, and it's all about breath control, which makes a lot of sense in his sport, where breath control is everything. Because if you're held down underwater, there's a high likelihood that you're not going to survive that day of surfing. So I thought that was so cool.
That is so cool.
And his Rogan podcast is one of my favorites of all time. The Laird Hamilton one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
I use his creamer, the non-dairy creamer, and I think it has like, my aunt turned me onto it, and there are some different flavored ones, and I think it has like MCT oil somehow in it, so it's like a coffee creamer alternative to make kind of like a bullet coffee kind of thing. I know that's part of his product line. Yeah, it's like a bullet coffee.
That's cool.
Coffee thing.
Well, I only got this guy's first name, so next time I'm in the sauna with
next
him,
time you gotta go for it.
I'll hand him a sweaty business card. Like, I gotta get you on the pod, fella.
You should have, like, maybe your business card should be sweaty. Like, they have like little sweat
like beads of sweat on them. That's a fantastic idea. Sweaty business cards.
They could have like a little like sweat band, like little sweat beads. Oh, I could see it. Hot mic.
It's a great design idea. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, do it. That sounds hilarious.
So speaking of protocols,
Yes.
you have just gotten into, you were telling me just before we started the podcast about this cold protocol.
Yes.
Can you break this down for me? I had never heard of this. So yeah, tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, so I think I just got to a moment where I was like, I just really want to, especially with the Delta variant kind of like popping in, I just wanted to feel really strong and healthy and just focus a little bit more on that for myself. And I started listening to the Huberman Lab podcast. He's a fantastic scientist who does a great job explaining things. He also does a lot of like visuals, which are really helpful sometimes just to kind of break things down. And I think, even his Instagram is so informative.
Okay.
And he does pretty long form, detailed podcasts.
Is he solo, like talking directly into the camera kind of thing?
Occasionally. I think he had like Lex Friedman on
okay.
for a bit. So he will occasionally do that, but a lot of it is breaking down and translating what is scientifically known, and what studies have shown, and then transitioning that into like information that the layperson can both understand and then apply. Okay. Which is what I like. I love the application of like, okay, here's how it works. This is what you do. That's the best. So, and it was funny because that day that I had started doing this, Joe Rogan had just posted that he was doing cold plunge. I can't remember the guy. It starts with an M. And
the company name, I'm forgetting it.
Yeah. It starts with an M, and I'm forgetting it right now. But they make an ice bath. Yeah. They make an ice bath in like a wooden tank. And it was his first time doing the cold plunge, and he videoed himself. God bless him.
I did see that. This is my first week on Instagram. Yeah. It's a bit of an overload.
Yeah, it's intense.
All of the posts and information coming at me, I'm just such a social media toddler. Yeah. So, but I saw that post. Yeah. I love that he said, and I think it was maybe the second video in the chain where he's then in the sauna and he's kind of giving his review and his feedback, and he's talking about like, I think I might need a spotter. Because after not even that much time, he was like, my legs were shot. He was like, I could barely get out.
I think that I really relate to that. And so, what I ended up doing is I did the Huberman Cold Protocol. He works with a different plunge company. They have their own plunge device. Okay. And where the water, I think, is like still around like 33 or 34 degrees. Very cold water.
So it's not an ice bath in the sense that you're pouring bags of ice or buckets of ice into the water. The water is kept at that temperature.
Right. The point of the plunge box device is for it to keep it as cold as that water needs to be. Okay. And so he was talking about a particular type of cold protocol because there's a certain type of fat, and I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure that this is what he was saying, that there's a certain type, there are multiple different types of fat, and one of the types is brown fat. Okay. And that in order to activate burning that fat, it has to have this external stimuli. And one of the ways that it can be activated is through shivering. And they have studied that people who are like really fidgety or things like that tend to be thinner because they burn so many more calories because they're like constantly they're like fidgeting and like changing your legs around and like that sort of thing, and that those things actually really add up over time calorically. Wow. And so part of this studying of the shivering was related to that. And so the protocol that he has, which is like specifically for fat burning, it does address like inflammation, of course, and things like that other cold water aspects will provide. But this is specifically getting in cold water. And he says, you can get in a cold shower if it works for you. I started with the shower. And it was funny because when I went into the shower, like the biggest problem that I had was that my feet stayed cold even when I got into the sauna afterwards. So I really relate to what Joe Rogan said about like, oh, I might need a spotter. Okay. And the next time I do it, I am going to do it with a cold bath, and maybe put some ice in there as well just to get it even cooler. But I have such terrible circulation in my legs and feet that I will put them up. Like I'll probably go in the bath like ass first just so that I can avoid, because you're so sensitive. Your feet are so sensitive. You have like 25,000 nerve endings on your feet. It's crazy. So they're really sensitive areas of your body. And I'm pretty like specific about my feet anyway. I've had foot injuries before, so I'm really like cognizant of feet. And so I think, the next time I'm just going to try and like slide into the bath.
Yeah, keep the feet out.
Keep the feet out, or like put the feet in at the end. Okay. Because I think if I put my feet in first, they'll burn so hard that I won't be able to like keep going. So the protocol, which I just tried in the shower, you get in cold water, you stay in until you've been shivering for 60 seconds to 120 seconds. And the point is to shiver. It's to avoid resisting shivering and just like let yourself shiver, because that's what's going to cause the thermogenesis, like the breakdown of that tissue. Then you get out of the cold water. You do not cross your arms, because when we cross our arms, we're warming ourselves up.
So it's not this shivering. Yeah, you're out here.
You're allowing it. You're just like letting yourself shiver. You don't cross your arms. You do not dry off either. You just stay in that state and you shiver for an additional 60 to 120 seconds. Okay. That is one round. And so they recommend like anywhere between 3 and 5 rounds. And I did about 5 rounds, but I was not able to like get the shiver quality that I really aspire to. Okay. So I love the concept, and then I immediately went into the sauna for like 40 minutes. Yeah. Wow. Because I was just so cold. My feet were cold. I like put my feet up in the sauna. Yeah. Just to try and warm them up, because it's a little bit hotter at the top. Sure. I try to. One of the things that I do, though, I don't like the heat staying really high at the top. Okay. So I take off my banya hat and then I like wave it around to pull the air down. Okay. So I try not to keep the top too hot, but I did, like, it's still hotter, so I would put my feet up just to try and get the circulation going again. It was my feet were, even though it was just the shower, they were still cold. So
yeah, do you think it'll be much more effective to be completely submerged in the cold water?
Yeah, I think.
Will you put ice in it, or will you just draw a cold bath?
Maybe I'll just try a cold bath first. I mean, I run pretty cold generally, so I was honestly surprised that the shower didn't get me cold enough. I was expecting it to be like torture, you know, and it wasn't. It was like, oh, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm not. I could tell that I wasn't cold enough. Yeah. And that was disappointing, because not only am I going to have to like be colder, but because I was like hoping that it would be cold enough too to just take a shower. I do think it'll be more effective with the bath, and I've heard that it's better to like have the water cover your heart. Okay. Do you submerge like your head, or your face coming out? I don't think
Is that not as beneficial?
I don't know if that's really necessary. I mean, I think if you submerge most of your core, at least that's what I've seen. I mean, when I was in the shower, I did position the water kind of like at the back of my neck and the back of my head, because that'll really like help cool you down. But even that didn't feel like I could get enough shivers to
it's interesting
really get going.
And it makes so much sense that depending on what temperature you're coming from determines how difficult or how easy that whatever you're doing. Like, I can leave the sauna and go stand under a cold shower for 10 minutes easy, and I'm like, it's not even hard, it's actually necessary. I'm like, I need to bring my temp down. I was in there for 30 minutes and that was rough. Or coming into a sauna cold, and you can sit in there and endure the heat for up to 40 minutes. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. Actually, last week was 30 minutes, I think, is my longest ever.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was maybe 27 something. 25 is pretty, I do that regularly, like 4 days a week or so. But the timer at my gym sauna is 15 minutes. So, and I mean, it's probably accurate within, I don't know, 30 seconds or something.
Sure.
But I did a full 15 without drinking any water. And then I flipped it, and then I was like, I got this next 15 because I got a full bottle of water here.
Right.
And if I have water, even if it's a psychological thing, like I'm like, I'm good.
Right.
This is gonna save me. This is gonna get me through this torture.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of that. And
yeah. I mean, 25 minutes four times a week is like.
That's what the
goal.
study
Yeah.
out of Finland recommended, right?
Yeah. That's yeah. And of course, like more is always better, but I mean, any sauna is great, and it's to be able to be getting that threshold of having that 40% reduction in all-cause mortality. Pretty great.
That's awesome.
Pretty great. Yeah. I mean, it's so fun.
So it's does the 60 to 120 seconds start once you're shivering?
Yeah.
So you stand under there
until you shiver,
or you're submerged in the water until you feel your body involuntarily shaking. You let it go. You go with it. Do it for a full minute or two, and then you get out and do that while you're dripping wet. Shiver, and then start again. Okay.
Yeah, that's the protocol, and then, yeah. I mean, I definitely want to try it. My goal is to kind of alternate. I want to alternate like exercise days and then like cold plunge sauna days, to see how that feels versus like everything on one day.
Okay.
I want to see what it feels like to kind of emphasize recovery and rest on one particular day, and then emphasize exercise on another day.
Okay.
I'm just kind of curious how that will feel.
Do you do this on an empty stomach? Do you eat like after you're doing this protocol?
That is a great question. I
know you're early in the process, but I'm curious what you're thinking, if this is something you'd start the day with and then have a nice meal.
I still think I would probably end the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would probably. I still think I would end the day.
Okay.
I mean, this will probably be after my last meal of the day.
Yeah.
I'll do cold protocol and sauna. I don't really like a sauna on like a meal. No. Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
And I've been playing with this too, because we were talking about the intermittent fasting, which is something I've not really done with much success. I like to kind of cut off my eating at a certain hour of the evening, and then if I can, I love to like get up, hydrate, go have a good workout, a good sauna session, and if I can make it till noon, and then that first meal, which is high protein, some really good veggies in there, but like the first thing I'm really eating is right in the middle of the day, and it's after all of this hard work, and then that's kind of my recovery meal. But there's times where I'm dying mid-morning. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm so low energy, but I definitely run a lot on carbs, and they don't stick with you long. I'm certainly not keto.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've been playing around just with like what I feel like works best for my diet as well. I mean, fasting is actually pretty, I think it feels pretty intuitive to my body. I've never been a breakfast person. I like breakfast food, but I'm just
not first thing. Yeah.
No, I don't like to eat early in the morning. And I've actually stopped drinking coffee in the morning. I haven't had coffee in a while. And I actually when I have coffee, I have 1 cup. I never have more than 1 cup. And so I think it makes it easier for me to let it go.
Oh, good.
And so I don't feel caffeine dependent. I don't, even though I'm one of those people who I can have like an Italian after dinner espresso and still go to bed, Yeah. So I think I'm just a little bit less, because I don't consume too much. I'm not too focused on caffeine. I naturally, eat my first meal between like 12 and 2 usually, I would say. And today, and what I usually like, or at least recently what I've gone towards, is I had Turkish eggs for lunch today. So high fat. And
what are Turkish eggs?
They are, I mean, I think they're like spread beyond just turkey. I think there's areas of Greece and whatnot to eat them, but it's full fat Greek yogurt with some garlic and salt. And then you, what is it called? You poach an egg. I poach an egg. I've mastered poaching eggs, which is pretty. It feels pretty good.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It's hard to do, but like once you figure it out, it's easy peasy. It's so easy. So it's just like following a method. Okay. That's really what it's about. And while the water for the poached egg is heating up, I put in a metal bowl, I put the yogurt in it, and you just heat up the yogurt so that it's kind of room temperature, and let the garlic and the salt kind of like become inside of it. Wow. And you let that happen. While the egg is poaching, you slow cook. The key really is like slow cooking butter. Sometimes people will do like some part butter and some part olive oil, but you have to have like good olive oil in order to do it. So most of the time I just do like straight butter. And then they use Aleppo peppers, but I used harissa and just regular red pepper flakes. And then you put the poached egg in and the butter on top of the yogurt, and then you eat it with some bread if you eat bread.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah. So I actually did buy some keto bread just to try it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have sugar. It tastes fine. Tastes like regular bread.
That's great.
And I was just like kind of craving bread. So, and I was craving Turkish eggs, and I think Turkish eggs are a great meal for me because it's a small meal, but it's really dense. It's rich, but not in like a cumbersome way. I love the butter. Like I love the fat of the butter. My body really likes high fats.
It sounds like incredible fuel and like energy fuel.
Yeah. And I mean, there's protein even in the yogurt. I know not everyone does dairy, and I probably do lower dairy than I've done in a while, but I don't know. It's just like always an experiment. I don't think I'm ever going to nail what I eat or what I like. I think it's just going to change. I'm also curious to see how it changes, like even seasonally. Like how am I going to feel about fasting during the winter versus now, or that sort of thing, where it's easy to not eat a ton of food in the summer because it's so hot out. You're like, I don't need food. I need a popsicle.
Or I just need to drink cold water.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to feel super hydrated and that sort of thing. So I think for me, the thing that I'm most excited about is getting into like a cold protocol, and a sauna routine, just because it feels really good. It feels like, it almost feels like laying down coins at like a little altar, but it's just like it's like the way you give yourself an offering. And I love that feeling. I love the feeling of like treating myself like the temple and being able to feel so good after the sauna.
Absolutely.
So,
and when we last recorded a podcast, things were still opening back up, and I hadn't gone back to the gym and been back in the sauna yet. And honestly, the conversation was almost torture because I was like, oh my God, I want to go right now. I miss it so much. Yeah. And now that I'm back in it, I'm doing it probably 5 to 6 days a week. I'm probably taking one day off.
Yeah.
And it's this time where I walk out of that room and I was like, that was for me. Like that was absolutely time for myself. It was challenging. I know some people go in with headphones on and stuff and they're listening. Like that's my quiet time. Occasionally I like having a good conversation like with the fella in the sauna today. But a lot of times I like just being there with my thoughts, and I leave there with so much gratitude. And out of all the restaurants that closed down, all the things that I missed, venues I missed going to, I think that hot box I missed more than any other place. Yeah. I was just, I feel at home there.
Yeah, totally. I do too. I love it. And I think it's, Yeah, I've never been like an athlete per se, or a competitive sports person. And so I've never experienced, or when I was very young, I did that. So I didn't have sort of those pinnacle experiences of being competitive. And so now it's an experience that's just personal, where I'm like competing against myself in a way that's only like net positive, because it's competing to like just show up. Like that's really the bare minimum of sauna use anyway. It's just anything is better than nothing. And it's great to just show up for yourself every once in a while. And if you can make a lifestyle out of it, like people like you and I, then it's just even more exciting, So.
It's hilarious how much we just enjoy talking about it.
I know.
Like,
I know.
Saunas.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know. When my brother,
no, like, great. But it's like, no, I'm passionate about this.
There's so much to talk about. I mean, one of the things that was interesting, the particular cold plunge unit that Rogan got, the person who has the company, they have this like training for basically like a guided ice bath where they help prepare you mentally for it and then help you through the process. And it's like this, I mean, it's basically like a cold plunge coach. And I was like, that is such a great idea. Like I even with the sauna usage, like I feel like a lot of my job at the bath was being a sauna coach for people. And actually one of the best days I had being in the sauna was we had a girl come in who, she was 14. She was from Chicago, and she was competing for a taekwondo tournament. She had to cut weight. And somehow they ended up at our bathhouse, and her coach was a man, so he couldn't come back.
Okay.
And the front desk lady was like, hey, just so you know, we've got a girl back there. She's young. She's on her own, and she has to cut weight for a taekwondo tournament. I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
No one will not be making weight under my watch.
Oh my God.
And so I
the perfect coach in
you. Thank you. I really felt honored to be able to do that. I mean, she hadn't eaten in days. She was in a lot of pain. She just was like kind of that like in and out of reality
delirious,
that you get. Like, just delirious food deprivation,
almost sleepwalking.
And she's like a growing person. If you're 14, your body like needs all of the things that you're sweating out. So it was hard for her to cut those last couple of pounds. She was solid, she's very muscular. But I sat with her and I like explained to her how to do it. I was like, and I would distract her in the sauna. I would like ask her questions. I'd fill up her buckets. I'd time her. I'd be like, okay, you go in there and I'm going to come in when you can come out.
Okay.
Nice. And I would do all this. And we have an old school scale. She didn't know how to work it because she was, she didn't know how to work it. And so I would
I couldn't even see straight.
Yeah. I don't think she was reading,
I'll
reading in a lot of numbers or anything like that.
What weight was she? Do you remember? What weight class was she competing in?
I mean, she had to have been competing in like the 130s or 140s.
Okay. Gotcha.
She probably should have walked around between like, she probably should have been 160. Like that.
Wow. She was not a small thing.
No, she wasn't. And she was like, she was just strong. Like there was just nothing excessive on her body, and she wasn't like jack ripped.
Yeah.
But she just was, solid, and I think part of it was like her body wanted to hang on to some of that fat because she's like transitioning into womanhood so strongly when you're 14. Your body's just going through a lot and it's working really hard. So I think that's a hard time to cut weight. But
it's a strange practice.
It is a strange practice. She got down, I think she was there for like an hour and a half. We got her down 6 pounds. Good God. She was able to compete.
Wow.
Lost in the first round, but it was her first. I think she was a freshman. She had to have been. She was 14.
Yeah.
She was a freshman in high school.
You know what I did? I weighed myself before I went in the sauna and then after. And I had sweat, and then I drank a whole bottle this size, and I weighed the same.
Yeah.
Like I was off by, I don't know, 0.2 or something. Like that was the difference. But it was like, oh my God, that's how much is coming out of you. And that really makes sense that this is so effective if you're just not rehydrating. If you just deplete yourself of all that hydration, it's like, that's a lot of your standing weight is this kind of fluctuating hydration level.
Right.
How much water have you had today?
Yeah.
And yesterday.
That's what I try to preach, really, is like when my brother was in town, they were doing the sauna and they were experimenting. So they were asking me, what about this? What about this? And when we have the option to like pour over the water, and I was kind of giving some explanation about timing around that. But I said to both of them, I was like, the thing you need to do the most is pre-hydrate, because you just, they were coming from sea level.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You just can go into the red really easily. A couple Manny Margs in you'll go into the red.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So I think I think prehydration is like a fun aspect of it. I mean, it's easy for me to see it as like this like personal spiritual ritual that I do for myself. So like making a prehydration drink that's like bitter and hard and disgusting to kind of have is fun to me.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. I enjoy the ways that even with the cold protocol stuff, like I think I'm really shitty at being cold, honestly. I think it's not a good trait of mine. And so it's been fun to work on something that I don't feel good at.
Yeah.
And to make myself uncomfortable consciously and get to experience the different ways that I experience that thing over and over again. So, and it's interesting too, because like going underneath into a cold plunge feels so much more about the breath in some ways, where you're like holding on. But to do the Huberman protocol, where you're like actively allowing yourself to shiver, when we're kind of programmed in some ways to like stop shivering,
totally.
Like we're like, oh, I'm shivering, I'm uncomfortable, I need to stop doing this. And so we're like, trying to solve that problem versus allowing yourself to just like shiver is an interesting mental. It's just been an interesting mental experience to go through all those different things. So it's just fun. I just like it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a ski racer as a young man, as a high schooler, we would be racing. That's the time that I remember shivering the most intensely. And it would be waiting in the starting box to do this really explosive activity, and my body is completely cold.
Right.
So it's surprising I didn't get more injuries. But I'm wearing spandex. I might have a layer of wool in between, but it's 15 degrees out. And I just remember shaking uncontrollably in the starter box. And like even my coach would like be rubbing my legs, and it's like to know like this isn't going to help. But yeah, it's but I remember like I was embarrassed about it. I was like, I can't believe I'm shaking so much. It's like, you have no body fat right now as a teenage boy. And you've just been standing up here waiting for your turn.
Right. It's cold
so
outside.
cold.
And I think it's interesting that you were 15 in this example, and the previous conversation about the younger woman cutting weight. I'm curious what the science is going to show as we go on for young people who are doing these different activities, and how it affects them, how weight cutting affects them, things like that. When they're growing people, I think it's got to affect you differently in some ways than someone who's already grown. And I mean, I think I love the trend in the UFC of fighting closer to your weight, because I think the biggest problem with weight cutting, amongst the long list of problems, is that you are dehydrating your brain, which is a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. I can't see that it is a competitive advantage having a dehydrated brain.
24 hours before you go into Mortal Kombat. It's
you want to be sharp. You want to like be playing chess and shit. You don't want to be delirious.
I'd like to think, like, if I'm putting myself in the headspace of a fighter, or thinking like, what if I were doing this crazy pursuit of being a great fighter? Would I be fighting right there at my weight class, or would I be tempted to do this legally sanctioned cheating that everybody agrees with, like, we just do this. This is how the sport is played. I'm fighting at 155. I walk around at 178. And it's like, What do you think that if you were a fighter right now, would you be like, maybe I cut 2 or 3 pounds, but I am exactly how I train. This is my walk around weight.
Well, I definitely don't have enough muscle to compete in my weight class. So I would have to gain weight.
Yeah.
In some ways, I would have to gain muscle at least and probably lose fat. So if I were able to I think if I did that, I would probably end up weighing like close to the same in some ways. I don't know though. I mean, I'd be fighting it like Valentina Shevchenko.
I know.
I can't fight her.
That is such a factor in this question because I think of this.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at the guys who weigh my walk around weight, who fight at my walk around weight, and I'm like, I don't want to fight Kamaru Usman. Like, what do you? No way. Yeah. That's not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, realistically, it's like the reality is I don't want to fight.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, this is a difficult hypothetical, but I want to think like I wouldn't allow myself to be depleted before going into such a high consequence activity like a fight. So I like to think that, but if I was really in this sport, and not just a fan of it, the likelihood is I'd do the whole weight cut thing.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be to my. I mean, I definitely think it would be to my advantage, especially because I'm so short. Because it's not going to be helpful to be in some of those heavier weight classes and be really short. Yeah. Like I think of the
should we dip into the fights? Let's do it.
It reminded me of the Montserrat fight, which wasn't this card but was the other one. But you know how short she is? Yeah. That's how I feel. That's how I feel like I think she's an inch shorter than me. Okay. And it's just like not great, for competing with really tall people just because of the range. Like if we were just wrestling, different situation. But I think about that.
I was listening to Cormier and Dominic Cruz talking about tall and short fighters. It was during, I think it was actually during the main event, Sandhagen against Dillashaw, where he was talking about what Dillashaw needs to do. Basically, he needs to put the tall guy on his back foot, so he can't just keep firing off. And you saw that pressure, pretty much the entire main event fight. Yeah. But I think that's interesting that especially Cormier was certainly a short heavyweight and light heavyweight, not a incredibly tall guy. So he had to have strategies when fighting guys like Stipe and fighting guys.
John Jones.
Yeah. Big, long, lanky, tall guys. And Cruz as well.
Right.
Cruz is,
Well, and it's essentially like it's the pressure eliminates the benefit of being able to manage the distance completely, which a lot of the times the taller fighters can do. They can just dominate through range, because they can come in and out with the range advantage.
Izzy's a master at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I even think Zabit is really great at that too, because he's pretty tall for his weight class as well.
That's right. And is he a 145er?
Yeah.
Is that where he's at?
Yeah, I think he's 145. Yeah. Yeah, he's 145.
But he is tall. He's like
tall.
6 foot maybe?
I think he's over 6 foot.
Is he 6'1" maybe? 6'2"?
Yeah, 6 foot, 6'1". But I mean, he's just
lanky.
So...
Do you think we'll ever see Zabit Yair?
I don't know. I just like to see Zabit, period. Yeah. I miss seeing that guy.
Have we not seen him since?
I heard that he might have like a chest infection or he was having some respiratory issues.
Did he get COVID?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he got COVID. So we'll have to see.
Well, one of the weight cuts that, a fight I found really interesting. Let's just start at the start of the undercard. Yeah. I thought the Belbita Goldie fight was really cool. And as you were aware, I had to watch all of these yesterday. Yeah. I couldn't believe, I didn't know till day of that it was a mid-afternoon start to the card. Right. I was on the way to the airport and I'm just like, I was done. I thought I was going to cry. But I didn't miss the main event. Everything worked out okay. Yeah, that's good. But so it was actually kind of fun to have a partial fight night on my Sunday. Yeah. But Belbita Goldie How jacked is Goldie?
Wow.
She it almost seems detrimental to be carrying that much muscle.
Yeah, I thought about that too. I mean, I think that's part of like the fatigue that ended up happening towards the end, because she's just got so much oxygen required in her muscles. So
those shoulders are just
she's
massive.
huge.
Yeah.
She's huge, and she's so. It's really. I liked watching her. I don't remember seeing a fight of hers beforehand.
I don't think so.
And is she a wrestler? Was she like some sort of?
I wasn't clear on her background.
Yeah, I need to figure out what her background was, because I kind of got the feeling that maybe she was a wrestler, because she kind of had that body type.
Mm-hmm.
But
I could see that.
I definitely think I think it contributed, and I don't know what weight class was this even.
I think they were 135.
35.
Yeah, I believe.
I mean, she's got to walk around like 25, 30 pounds heavier than 130.
Yeah,
you know,
she was solid.
Yeah, she's really strong.
It's such different body types, because Belbita was just kind of a lanky gal, like athletic, but boy, could she strike.
Yeah, and she was kind of scrappy. You know, she had this kind of like, she'd kind of spark off, and then something would happen, and you know, a couple times she got caught because she was a little bit sloppy in her sloppiness. You
could see the inexperience, but you could see the fire and the fight that she has in her. I'm excited to see her fight again.
She was a fun fight. I think she'll do well over time too, because she'll be kind of a, you know, like a fan favorite, the way that like Gagey comes forward, or even like Moitano the other week. I had this like very Gagey flashback from like those early fights where Gagey would just go forward and you're screaming at the television for him to like just like chill out for a second. He just keeps going. He's
just foot on the gas the entire time.
Just can't even conceive of letting up. And I got a little bit of that from Moitano. And you know, hopefully over time he learns to like move his head, for example. That was so stressful.
He was getting lit up.
Oh my God, horrible.
Yeah,
really tough.
Belbita, I thought she was adorable on the microphone. She was apologizing for her English, but she was like, "But I'm working on it," and it was really good.
Yeah, and I think that it's an interesting quality, because I do feel like people experience fighters differently when they do or do not speak English. You know, like there's a reason why I think Khabib really was endeared in the English-speaking community after a certain period of time. I mean, obviously, like the Eastern world, the Muslim world, that's their boy.
Superstar.
How can you not love him? I mean, but I think people really got to know who he was and the type of values that he has once he was able to express himself more in English. I kind of like it, though, when they don't speak English. Like, I love that Charles Oliveira doesn't speak English. I love that.
Gilbert Burns or someone like that who's like, you guys are just true blue Brazilians.
Yeah, I mean, even the guy, it was Julio, right? And it was Uriah translating the Portuguese.
That was amazing.
Hardcore. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea he was so fluent in Portuguese.
Did it seem like the teammate, the other guy, was translating it and saying it to Uriah, and Uriah was then...
Oh, was that what was happening?
I think because there was another guy involved.
Oh, okay.
So I think they were using him as a middleman, but I think they were... Maybe Uriah was just like, hey, I got more experience on the microphone. I can...
Right, maybe.
I can represent my teammate better this way.
Right. Well, Team Alpha Male did really well. Did really well this card.
They did. Oh, yeah.
So I can imagine...
Multiple fights.
Yeah.
Who else? Mickey Gall. He was fighting out of Alpha Male too, right?
Mickey Gall, Macy Barber.
That's right. She's with them.
Yeah.
She did. That was a close fight. Miranda Maverick she's a beast.
I mean, she actually, in some ways, I felt like there was a mimicry between Hannah Goldie and Miranda Maverick. I did think that Miranda should have won. Like, I thought she won rounds 1 and 2. And I get the, like, you know, I definitely think it was Macy's third round. But, you know, to one of the points about, you know, the Dillashaw fight with Dillashaw getting those points for going forward all the time. I mean, that's what Miranda Maverick was doing for 2 rounds. And so if we were looking at things in a consistency pattern, then technically I think she should have had more points for those reasons alone. But I do think think she took the first 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think she took the first.
It was very
2 rounds.
impressive.
Yeah, I like that fight. I like that fight.
Did you see or how nasty was Eubanks Reed? And I believe, speaking of weight cuts, I believe Sajara's last fight was at 135. She dropped down to 125
Oh God.
and looked so dominant. Like Reed couldn't do anything.
And her eye exploded immediately. She looked like a flailing fish at the end. You know, just like holding on for dear life.
Oh, yeah,
it was
that
incredible
thing blew up.
stoppage. It was great stoppage. But man, Sajara Eubanks. I mean, I like that's again like that would be my weight class if I fought at my walking around. It sounds like a terrible idea. She's so strong.
Yeah,
she's so strong.
And it wasn't. Vanessa actually watched the fights and was like texting me updates and stuff while I was driving to the airport. And she said, and it was like Eubanks. TKO victory, elbows, stoppage or whatever. And I was picturing just like kind of slamming elbows. They were these swinging things that like clipped just the side. Very likely that orbital was broken.
Yeah.
With that ground and pound. It was nasty.
I mean, and I think it's also like a great technique to do something like that because it's probably a little bit more like ergonomic to the body. Not that that's your priority when you're in the middle of a fist fight, but also because it does allow for a specific type of damage, it's going to make your opponent look really injured regardless. And so it kind of like stacks up on both ends. And I mean, she just, Reed's face like blew up like that.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And it was cool to see Eubanks get a first round knockout. That was fun.
That was great. That was good for her. I thought Mickey Gall looked great. He hasn't fought in quite a while.
He did look good.
And he was threatening a bunch of different submissions. I thought maybe that guillotine was going to be the thing that took Williams out. But, the rear naked choke. He's super legit on the ground.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
What would be a fun matchup for Mickey? It's a shame that his biggest fight to date is CM Punk. And like meaning that's what got him on a main card.
Right.
I think he was the co-main for a pay-per-view.
What weight?
I actually remember watching that the CM Punk fight and being with your dad, and your dad was like, we all were like, this is pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Like this is like, we paid for this fight. I just remember your dad was like next level pissed off that we were watching a pro wrestler.
Yeah, I'm sure. He's an expert. It's funny watching the fights with him because he's so good at calling the fights. Like he would make a great judge. And I really wanted to. I was like, after the 2 fights between the Miranda Maverick call and like the Corey Sandhagen Dillashaw stuff, it was the same. It was the same judge the whole time, Sal D'Amato, who was having the same pattern. And I was like, Dad, you should replace Sal D'Amato.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I know. He'd be so good at it. He's very like, he just has a lot of experience. He sees it really clearly. He's very like calm and objective. I don't have these qualities during a fight. I'm like screaming all the time.
I'm so emotional.
Yeah, me too. I'm so emotional. I can never do it.
I'm so stressed out, especially if honestly the fight nights where they're not like the main event isn't somebody that I really love watching, or like I actually enjoy the fights more if it's not somebody that I'm really rooting for.
100%.
Like when Rose Namajunas is fighting, I am a ball of stress. If when Izzy is fighting, when it's just like I don't know that I enjoy it as much. I want to see it. I'm never gonna miss it. But it's like the enjoyment factor. I feel like if this doesn't go the way I want it to, I'm going to be devastated kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And I try and fight that. I try and be like, I just want to see a good competition. It's like, yeah, but that's a lie.
Honestly, I think, though, that's what makes you a real fight fan, you know? Like, I don't think you're the type of person whose opinion is constantly being swayed, certainly by the media, you know, or like Instagram, since you just got on it this week. Yeah.
A little late to the game. Yeah, is it even relevant still?
That's okay. That's okay. I think it'll work. We'll save TikTok for next week. But I think that's like what being a true fight fan is like you have people you're just not going to give up on. And I become really emotionally attached to. And I think in some ways that's like one of my favorite things about it. One of my favorite things is knowing a fighter almost like a character in a novel, and I'm just waiting to see what happens in this story because I'm fascinated by them. Yeah. And there's so many characters in the UFC. There's so many fun characters.
Yes. Well, that's actually a fantastic analogy. Because there's some that are like a beautiful storybook, and you're like, this arc is incredible. Maybe it's a GSP or an
Ngannou.
Yeah, that's a great one. That is a fantastic story. You're like, it's a real page turner. And then there's some fighters that it's an absolute train wreck, disaster horror story of a novel that you're like, oh boy, that was a rough chapter. And it like John Jones.
Yes.
And then you're back and you're like, oh, this is better. I really like where his character arc is going. And then you're just like, oh, Jesus, hit and run, really? And then, like Connor, the same way. Like Connor's had some moments where you're like, wow, he's changing as a man. Now he's a father. And then after this last Poirier trilogy, it's just like, you're still doing the heel thing? Like that's the part of your career that you're at. You're still going to be the heel. I can't. That's so disappointing to me. I hope we can get through this chapter quickly and we can be on to.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've never been a Conor fan. I've just never. I can appreciate that. He's bringing eyes to the sport that I think is a great sport. But I do think that it's been a sad, almost like karmic experience for him. And it was just odd. I mean, I don't know if you saw like all the pictures afterwards, even of how he had kind of kicked Poirier with the same foot in the press conference, in the pre-fight press conference where they're like standing off. It was the same foot. And it was like he had told Poirier, I'm going to send you out in a stretcher.
And then
he left in a stretcher. And I just think, we saw it happen to Rose, or we saw it happen to Joanna with Rose. We saw it happen to Rousey with Holm. The octagon is like a keeper of the karma of your hubris. And I don't think that having a lot of wealth all the time is like it's not always a gift. Like sometimes that's a curse. Sometimes having a lot of money is actually someone's great burden.
Yeah.
And he sold Proper 12 for what, like $600 million or something
Crazy.
like that. Like he
was the highest paid athlete last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly the whiskey,
right?
But that beats LeBron.
Yeah.
That beats.
And honestly, good for him. Like I love to see MMA winning amongst all the other sports, because as much as it is violent. I do think that the stories in these people, they're so incredibly human, and to fight for your life is very incredibly human, and we're so removed from that as a culture. Like we're not doing that for the most part. I'm not experiencing having to like hunt for my food.
Right. I
can go to the grocery store, and it's easy enough to do. So I think that's part of why people love fighting, because they can live through it. And I think that's also part of why people love to hate on fighting, is because they don't want to admit that they want to beat the shit out of someone too. That's honestly what I think.
Yes.
It's a part of our nature as animals, and as humans we have the express ability to choose whether or not to fight, you know? And, you and I, we don't fight, but we appreciate it. And when we watch it, we can like live through those experiences and appreciate truly the humanity. It is one of the most human things you can do, is fight for your life. And we don't get to experience that. I mean, the most discomfort I'm experiencing is getting into some cold water. Boo-hoo. Yeah.
yeah.
It's incredible to see what people are willing to do. And this, I just love the story. I literally call them my stories.
Yeah.
My grandmother would always call her, my great grandmother, she would always call her soap operas. So like, I got to get home and watch my stories.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so I call these my stories because they are.
Yeah.
Like I wish like part of the tale of the tape included like, and his relationship with his mother is like this, you know?
Yeah. That would be the kind of backstory or detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it would absolutely enrich the story. And
Yes.
I think how you said that is so well put, in that this is tapping into a very primal part of our nature. And that there is this, I mean, I can't imagine a person not wanting to be dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of the, like, I'd rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be that peaceful warrior. You want to be that person who is, I don't like to fight, but I'm still dangerous. I think that's very primal in our nature.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, being dangerous we're such soft things. We're such vulnerable things. We're the only creature that harms at a distance. Everything else has to get right up there and tooth and claw, and that's how they kill you. And then for us to engage in that tooth and claw, like, I'm not going to throw a spear at you. I'm not against guns, but I'm not a gun owner. It's like, I'd rather feel safe and secure in myself because I can throw hands and feet and I can grapple with you. But
Right.
also my most effective self-defense is a 40-yard dash.
Yeah,
Get the hell out of
exactly.
there.
Yeah, I think it's I definitely believe in the value of being dangerous, not of acting upon your dangerousness, of course. Like, sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes being dangerous to someone else is actually a form of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I think you rarely need it, but I think it's important. I mean, I think I've told you before that if I ever had a child, the 3 things I would want them to know are how to say please and thank you and how to kill a person. Because then I would feel confident with you leaving the house.
Yes.
You know everything you need to know about interacting with a person. You know how to be kind and gracious and giving and receiving and grateful. And if somebody crosses you, you know that it is your right.
Yeah.
It is your right to make sure that they understand it was wrong.
Yeah. And it's not to be confused with being destructive.
No,
it's more about self-confidence, and I think training really gives you that sense of, some of them, I mean, the people who are the least dangerous are probably the people who are most efficient at fighting you, because they know the consequences
yes,
of hurting somebody else and how other people can hurt them. You're very familiar with that. And when you get that out of your system, now I'm not somebody who really advocates for much sparring. I don't think smart people spar, like, unless you're going to be a fighter. But
right.
if I, at 36 years old, with no aspirations on taking an amateur fight, if I was still getting popped in the head and potentially kicked in the head a couple times a week just to, keep my edge, I think that's foolish.
Yeah.
But, like, staying sharp, keeping your tools sharp, I think there's something where you're blowing off that primal kind of cloud that sits over us, where stress, like after a hard kickboxing workout, like a good bag workout, where you've just been wailing on the bag, giving it all you got for 10 rounds or whatever, there's nothing more peaceful than that feeling afterwards.
Yeah.
You don't feel violent. You don't feel like, you certainly don't feel like you're going to get into some kind of road rage situation.
Yeah, no.
Driving home from the gym after a really good workout, especially a martial arts workout, I feel so patient, grateful. Like, the gratitude is way high, and I'm more generous. And, like, somebody's like speeding and cutting me off, I'm like, wow, he's really in a hurry, rather than like getting so mad.
Right, taking it personally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking of like sparring and like excessive taking of shots, I thought the Elkins Minner fight was kind of weird stoppage.
Yeah. Remind me again. I think that's the fight I came in on.
So Elkins is like 37.
He's still doing the damn thing. I can't believe he is still active.
Yeah.
So did he get... sorry, I interrupted you.
No, the first round, Minner was trying to take him down. And Elkins is a wrestler. I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. But he has that like Midwest wrestler background where he's just like not about the quit. Got out of an armbar, got out of a guillotine. Impressive. Like Minner got him into some dangerous positions, but Elkins just has a sense of experience and patience where he was able to kind of outlast the danger and know exactly what to do. But towards the end, and this was again a Mark Smith fight, and he's had a couple of like
premature stoppage or...
Well, I mean, this was late stoppage. I think that Mark Smith has had a couple of like weird stoppages for me.
Now I'm sad. I'm forgetting how this fight ended. Was it like did he get a crucifix?
He got him into a crucifix and continued to beat up on his face. And then like he got out of the crucifix. But the issue was that he was not defending himself, you know? And like me playing like armchair, like backseat ref, I'm always like giving 3 counts of like fighter defend yourself. You know, if you can't defend yourself in like 3 solid warnings, it's time to call the fight. And there was a certain time where Elkins was just like, he was hitting him so hard. I mean, there was like 20, 30 maybe unanswered shots, and Minner was moving around, but moving around is like a kind of a strange category of defending yourself, because in one way it's like, yeah, that is because he can only move so much because he's in a crucifix. But then in another way it's like, I think this fight is done. This fight is done. You know what? So Darren Elkins, I guess he lost 4 and he won his last 2.
Maybe it's time for retirement.
I think it would be great for him to go out on a high note. Also, him and Clay Guida.
Oh, if they did.
They
did another.
I think that fight would be...
Ooh,
that would be...
legends.
Yeah, 2 legends, 2 older guys. I mean, Clay Guida had a good win his last one, and he like ran out of the cage in a classic like, I'm still working out kind of Clay Guida vibe.
That's awesome.
So I think my pick is like Darren Elkins and Clay Guida fight, and then they both should just retire.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like that matchup a lot.
Me too.
I think I was even talking on Fight Night, like what is his exit strategy? Like I really hope he's got something set up where he's either maybe like opening a gym, or it's just these old guys who probably don't have a future commentating, or like I just hope he's got something lined up.
Well, and he said in his post-fight that, you know, after he had lost, he talked to his wife, and his wife was like, you know, I believe in you, and if you want to keep doing this because you still believe in yourself, like that's okay with me. I've never been anyone's wife, but if I was in that situation, I don't think that would be my answer. I just don't think that would be my answer. You're 37. You have like the proportion of your cauliflower ear should determine when you retire. Like he has such,
it's closing.
Yeah,
like he
has such intense cauliflower ear. I'm not anti cauliflower ear. Like there's like there's value in it, and it is a marker of like you can kill someone, right? So it's kind of like, all right, we like it. But I just feel like he's been around so long. I mean, I don't know if it's just like his speech or like what was happening at the end, but I was
didn't sound good.
Yeah, I was like, I think he needs to be done. Like, I truly think his best, if I were Sean Shelby, Darren Elkins, Clay Guida, this is the last fight on your contract. Like, I think if he's in Indiana, I can't imagine him not being able to get a wrestling coaching job. That'd be a great thing to do. And then he'd have like an actual retirement. I think that's one of the things that's difficult for a lot of fighters is saving for retirement. I mean, it's hard for like all people in a lot of ways. If you come from like no money or don't have financial education, I think the UFC does have sessions of some sort
investment
when you enter,
money
like,
management.
yeah, like here's what you need to do for accounting. I do think that they have resources for that. I don't think they're like just blindly allowing people to not know what to do for their future. It's not like there's a retirement or healthcare package, which is a problem.
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous. Like, I think they absolutely should. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was I thought between the Yanez Costa all the way up to the Elkins and the Paiva Phillips, like those, I mean, the top of this was a great brawling card. I thought it was great.
The Costa, that's not on my list. There it is.
Oh, yeah,
there it is. Sorry.
Above. Yeah. I loved that fight.
Didn't Costa fight before Barber and Maverick? I thought they were the first ones. Anyways,
yeah, I'm not sure.
That was fireworks, that first round.
Yeah.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. Costa was throwing up some beautiful kicks.
Yeah.
Sometimes that guy throws more kicks than punches. Like,
yeah.
He is the dexterity in his legs.
A lot of high kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really great. I mean, I thought, and Randy has a, whoa.
Wow. We got a jet passing over.
Whoa. Somebody's going to Cheyenne.
Yeah. That's loud.
One of the things that I loved too, wow, it's happening again.
They're getting flyovers.
Yeah, we're getting flyovers. They're coming. I mean, between like Cheyenne Mountain and actual Cheyenne, they have to be doing some weird shit. So, Costa's jab though was incredible, and then Yanez had just like that ending. It was just a great combination between the body shots and that uppercut. He just really got him with that uppercut, and I think it was just so beautifully timed. I also really like that. I didn't see any of it, but I guess that they had like cute banter. And
they did.
Yeah, they were like arguing over Dr. Pepper and like Reese's Pieces. And after the fight, they were like breaking down their own fight.
I guess that's what I was. Yeah. I remember it was before they did the official hand raising.
Yes.
And they were talking about like Giannis's. He's like, man, I didn't think you were going to come out with such crisp boxing.
Yeah.
That was excellent. Very complimentary.
Oh, yeah.
Great show of sportsmanship.
Totally.
I thought it was really impressive. I like both of those guys.
I like both of them a lot. They seem like the type of people who would have dinner with each other afterwards just to discuss their fights and like give each other advice. True advice.
Yes.
You know, and I think like I love it. They had such great sportsmanship, and you could tell when like the ref even was smiling listening to them, and it was adorable. And you could tell, when Costa was clapping for him, it wasn't like a bullshit like, okay, you won. It was like, you won, like, great job. Like, I think that exemplifies kind of the pinnacle of the ethos of fighting that I love to see. Like, sometimes it's, of course, juicy to have, like, some smack talk and
the
some
heat,
some of that. Sometimes it's enjoyable, but other times it truly does get too much for me. And I loved that fight because it reminded me of what I really like about good fighting, which is that they're out there for truly like getting better and demonstrating their sport. And even Yanez was like a little self-critical of himself, and so that eye of like, I want to improve, I want to be the best that I can, and I don't ever want to underestimate the person who's in front of me or to be disrespectful to them, because they are honoring me by trying to kill me too.
Yeah.
Like
they're bringing their best game.
Right. They're bringing their best for you. And they're also like, willing to die in that way. Like I think that was one of my favorite moments of all time in UFC when the Gastelum Izzy fight, and he's sitting on the bench and he's like, I'm ready to die.
Yeah.
I just like, oh my God, I live for that.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, that you can see it, you can see his the words coming out. He's like, I'm prepared to die.
Yeah, like I'm ready to die tonight. Like it's crazy. So that was probably one of my favorite fights. I think I put it on my list. Same with the Paiva Phillips fight. Holy shit. Great.
That was incredible.
Holy shit. Like what a banger. That was great. I was impressed with both of them. And I loved how like evenly matched, how back and forth. It was just also very fun. Yep. Just very, very fun. I thought those 3 fights in particular were just really, really fun. And I was impressed with the Though for a while I thought Paiva was going to go down. Like I thought he just looked so wobbly. Like he looked maybe also another weight cut issue. Like maybe he was a little bit too heavy.
Well,
or
it
something
seems
like
like
that.
the shots that were landing in the first round were rocking him. And that's when I really thought, oh, he might go out. Maybe this round or maybe early in the second because of the work that Kyler Phillips is doing. But then as the rounds progressed, I felt like maybe there wasn't as much heat on the strikes from Phillip as he started to fatigue. But Paiva seemed to get – his jaw seemed to get stronger. Like just walking through shots, and he's putting together beautiful combinations. Always was adding an extra. If he's throwing a 1-2, it's actually going to be a 1-2-1. It was really an impressive fight.
Yeah,
I actually want to go back and rewatch that one.
Yeah, I want to rewatch that one as well because I also feel like, especially Kyler Phillips, I think has really improved, and that was fun to see. It was fun to see like the way that people have added new things in. That's always exciting to see what new that they're getting into. So, but yeah, that's definitely, I definitely want to rewatch that one. And I think I put that one on one of my, I keep a list of like, I want to have an end of the year watch party with like best
fights, your curated best fights of the year.
I mean, I'm not opposed to like other people's best fights too, but I just have been keeping like a small, not a super small, but like a small list of like, okay, maybe we'll all like get in our PJs after Christmas and like watch all these fights together, you know, just to recap the year, just have fun.
So with Fight Pass, it makes it so easy. Did I tell you what Vanessa and I would do during the pandemic, where we would have a fight night and it would be a fictitious card of past fights?
I love that. I mean, I think in some ways that's a great Fight Pass should do that. Like they should have their own. They should auction it as like, oh, this is this fan favorite. You know, this is Mike. He's a longtime MMA fan. This is his fantasy card. And then you have a way for people to put their fantasy cards up, and other people can watch them on Fight Pass in that order. It's a great way to give like interactive experience to Fight Pass.
I like that. I
need to email Uncle Dana.
There you go. Dear Uncle Dana.
Dear Uncle Dana. Elkins versus Guida. No more weight cuts.
It was so fun to see. Well, it's kind of hilarious to go from fight to fight in the fictitious or the fantasy card. And it would be like, it'd be Reebok deal, pre-Reebok deal. Like you'd just be going back and forth in time. But it was important that when I was making the fight card that I don't have all KO victories or all finishes. It's like I'm working in some fights that were frustrating. Like the point, it like it wasn't a full fantasy card where it's like, this is 13 of the best fights I've ever seen. It was like, no, I'd mix in a couple that were like, it was a bit of a stalemate of a fight, or this one was not didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Controversial ones. I think that's great. Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be like a fantasy card as much as it is like, here's an episode of you know, MMA and an MMA dream world where there is no time and you can put things together. I think that would be so fun for Fight Pass to do. I also have some notes about their like interface. Kind of drives me nuts about a couple of things they do.
Not crazy about the UFC website in general.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of surprised that it isn't better for how much. I mean, it's just so important. I'm surprised that they don't have their shit together when it comes to the website. The interface stuff, the user interface is like, ugh.
And it used to be a different. I feel like it maybe changed in the last 4 years or so. And the way it used to be, I liked way more. I can't even remember what it was. I just remember being like, oh, I don't like this. This is new. I hate change.
I think it was before they were bought by WME.
Okay.
And then when WME got it, I would imagine they have like pretty specific protocol, and now WME is Endeavor.
Okay.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the main event. This, I'd love to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I really was excited for this fight because they delayed it since May 8th. Which is kind of fascinating.
Who got cut? Was it?
It was Dillashaw.
Okay.
He got cut in training, I think.
think it could have been the same cut that opened up on his brow?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Could that just have had just a little bit of scar tissue there?
Right.
It was just the right.
It was a nasty
punch.
cut.
It was.
It was a nasty cut.
It was bad immediately.
Oh man.
Almost immediately after the cut happened, Herb like stops the action to look because it's like pouring into his eye. I can't believe it. We saw all 5 rounds. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by that. I mean, I was honestly impressed with both of them. Just, I thought Dillashaw looked like he was in great shape.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's coming back. I'm definitely not opposed to. I think it's great that he came back. I think that by him admitting that he cheated.
Yep.
And, you know, wanting a second chance, I'm about that. Like, I think that so many times when we've been wronged, half of what we want is for someone to say that they did it, you know, to just own, like, yeah, I fucked up.
And we're back.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ Dillashaw, Corey Sandhagen.
Go back to the part you're talking about, the content on Fight Pass, kind of the behind the scenes is his comeback.
Yeah, they're kind of using his saga of cheating and being, you know, off for 2 years, and then coming back as like a way to pump up him, and I would, you know, of course UFC as a default, but they're using it as like marketing material in a certain sense, which I'm like a little bit like ugh about. I would rather see more of the results before I like watch some hour-long sob story about why you cheated. Like, I just don't really care yet at all. I've never been like a huge Dillashaw fan. You know, I can't say that I'm like, oh yeah, like he's one of my guys. I can't really say that. I definitely respect his game, and I definitely appreciate that he owned up to his mistakes and is, you know, trying to figure it out. It's fascinating to me that he gets 2 years off, and we saw, you know, Nick Diaz get 5 years for smoking weed.
Right.
So times have changed, of course. And I do feel like, I know that I think he had 2 surgeries in his layoff, which actually, I mean, it was honestly like kind of a perfectly timed layoff for him because he had time to have his surgeries and recover, and then there was the sickness, so it was kind of well timed for him. And I was definitely like sad that this fight had been delayed. I wonder too, like, would things have been different had
it happened on schedule? If it would
happen, it was supposed to be May 8th, which was quite a bit of time ago. You know, that was 2 months ago, more than 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I really like Sandhagen. I think that he's just got such a fascinating style. I like his attitude. I like that he looks like, you know, he would come in and fix your computer at the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's so dangerous, you know. I love the way he speaks about himself, you know, what he wants for himself. I love those things.
His mental strength is very impressive. Yeah,
and I think he actually worked with some sort of mental coach or a psychologist or something like that. I think I remember in one of the Brett Okamoto interviews he discussed doing that. I mean, Dillashaw did keep him on his heels, which of course negotiated the height difference, and it is seen as octagon control.
Yeah, I felt bad. I know Corey felt like he did enough to get the decision victory. But I feel, and I understand, I guess I understand why he feels that. That he did more damage to TJ. But that wasn't, it wasn't the game of do more damage. It was win the fight, control the fight. And TJ absolutely did that, made the adjustments that needed to be made after that first round, and really put it to him as, I'm going to grind you out, and this is going to be a wrestling match, and I'm going to keep you up against the cage. I'm going to put a seatbelt around you and just hold on to your back. And I think TJ was still doing pretty well on his feet. But the range and the awkward angles that Corey can throw strikes from. They were lighting him up, and that was really effective. That cut was unfortunate, but I'm very curious whether that was the same cut that opened up in practice.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, I think that's probably a really good guess. Because even if that was the cut he had originally got in practice, they definitely were going to have to take time off before he could fight again, because that was a bad cut. It was really bad. I agree. I think, Dillashaw does have more experience in a lot of ways. I know he switched up a lot of things. I know he's like, he took his mistake and was able to like really look at himself and try and make some changes, even with coaching and things like that. And I think that Corey Sandhagen he's still like young, he's still like young in the game. And I do think that does make a difference, like being able to, that's a form of dominance in the octagon, is being able to dictate where you're going and what you're doing. And we didn't really see Sandhagen solve that problem. Dillashaw was able to solve that problem. I mean, I think it was a very close fight. And that was probably it. It was probably just like, he pushed him forward the whole time. And that makes a big difference. I thought Dillashaw sounded like an asshole at the end during his post-fight conference, where he was like, I believed in Corey Sandhagen before he believed in himself.
He's been saying that. That's kind of...
and then he said the whole, daddy's home thing, which I can't wait for him to stop saying.
That is cringy.
Yeah.
I heard gross. In the... it wasn't the pre-fight pressers. It was on Brendan Schaub's Food Truck Diaries.
Oh.
That I heard TJ say, I believed in Corey before he believed in himself. So I think it's just kind of...
Yeah,
that's kind of in his head now.
Yeah, it's part of his story, sure. And I think that's a powerful thing to have mental fuel over while you're going up against this guy. It's like, I know this kid. Like, this is someone who I was good before they were good.
Yeah.
That kind of mental toughness that adds to your fight narrative.
To go back to the Food Truck Diary interview, there's a part where he talks about he actually brings his own food truck to the show. So it's his juice truck. It's called like Clean Juice or something. That he's opening up so many stores in Southern California, brick and mortar and food trucks. But it's a pretty legit move to come up to a food truck show with your own food truck.
Yeah.
He's talking about this is his financial security, and that his future is really set, and that he's actually looking forward to retirement. Like, he's thinking about retirement and looking forward to it. Yeah. And I saw that as a red flag.
Yeah.
And that interview was 10 days out from the fight. Now we see TJ, and he looks just as hungry as ever to get that belt back. And I think that seems to be the path that he wants. It's like, whatever moves I need to make to get that belt back in my possession, then I can retire. I love that. It's a great plan. His losing the belt, like winning the belt, losing the belt, his has been a very interesting career to watch. And I honestly haven't been, like, I became a fan of his right when he was getting the belt against Renan Barão. And he put on an absolute clinic. One of the best victories over a champion I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Maybe one better would be Kamaru Usman against Tyron Woodley.
Oof,
that was such a dominant performance.
Pretty dirty, yeah.
But TJ, I've really enjoyed watching his career. Very interested to see he against Petr Yan.
Yeah.
Petr Yan. Because I feel like I see the Yan Sterling fight going about the same as the first one.
Yeah.
Maybe Sterling agree. Was just having a really off night, but
I don't know.
That is a pretty dubious victory to have the belt. And I used to like Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah.
Since he's become the champion.
I know.
Not so sure.
I know. That's kind of how I feel. I'm like, I don't know if this is okay right now.
How do you feel about Yan and how he matches up with Dillashaw? Because I feel like that's coming down the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I didn't know that he had mentioned that he might retire. I could see him then having only 1 or 2 more fights.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him having one more fight against Jan and then winning the belt and calling it good and vacating, afterwards, or maybe one more Garbrandt fight.
Ooh.
Just for shits and giggles for the belt. That could be dirty.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I could see him having 2 more fights, in this next year. I mean, I don't know when Aljamain and Jan are supposed to fight.
I don't think there's anything scheduled now. I think it's just that thing that's looming where it's like, well, you guys got to do this again.
Did Jan get the sickness?
I don't remember.
I can't remember either. I don't know. I mean, they need to figure that out because I'm sick of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Aljamain was losing that fight. I do think that an illegal knee fucks you up no matter what. Like, I'm sure he was fucked up from it. I think it was classless to tote around the belt afterwards. And even more classless to bring in Triple C and start cringing around, So I agree. Like, I think Petr Yan will be so incredibly deadly in that fight. It's gonna change Aljamain, in a new way. I think it could be really bad for him. So
it could be.
Yeah,
it was going
really
so bad in that first fight. And if Petr reclaims his title, I love Dillashaw getting right back in there.
I think he will.
He didn't lose the belt. He was stripped of the belt, but I think the argument is certainly there for him that should be his next fight.
100%
is for the title.
Yeah.
He just took out the number 2 guy.
Right.
And I think Dillashaw-Yan matchup is a lot better for Dillashaw than Sandhagen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sandhagen. Oh, man. Vanessa very appropriately corrected me. Like, I have been adding another syllable to Sandhagen. I almost give it like an Irish lilt, and I'm like, Sandhagen.
I love that.
He's a good man. I have to catch myself now.
Yeah.
Sandhagen.
Right.
Sorry for adding letters to your name, Corey. Yes. I really think that was such a tough challenge for Dillashaw, especially after 2-year layoff, to come back, fight the number 2 guy, do very well against
very
him.
Well.
I don't... I mean, I could see it going either way as we got to the cards. I predicted, I was like, I think it'll be a split decision TJ. I think that was my call.
Yeah.
And it was so close. It could have gone either way.
It's a great fight. And also, let's say in a hypothetical world, Dillashaw and Jan fight next March.
Yeah.
And Dillashaw wins. I could easily see this time next year we're watching Dillashaw and Sandhagen fight again for the second time for the belt.
They'll definitely be fighting again.
Yeah. So I mean, because if Dillashaw if he's interested in retiring, he only needs 2, maybe 3 more fights, and then he doesn't need to fight anymore, really.
Yeah.
And I do remember him mentioning something like that, like that during this off time, he really tried to set himself up for financial success as well and become more of a businessman. So I could see a potential for Garbrandt. Depends where Garbrandt's at, though. He hasn't been doing great lately. I think he had that
great knockout against a Sun Sao, but before that he was riding a couple of losses, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought didn't he lose his last fight too?
I don't know exactly what his last outing was. Should I look it up?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll pull it up real quick. But he was O'Malley just called out everybody after his fight.
Classic.
Yeah, exactly. He just called out like everybody in the, I don't know, top 10.
Yeah, I mean.
But and I know Cody was one of them, and it was when Brendan Schaub was doing a fight companion with Josh Thompson. Cody Garbrandt was there, and somebody within the crew, they said, "Oh man, O'Malley just called you out," and Cody initially was like, "No, this guy hasn't done enough. This is it's way too soon for him." And then everyone else at the table convinced Cody over the course of the next 10 minutes. And then he's like,
it's a great move for his career.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say O'Malley has definitely proven himself. He's an incredible fan favorite. You know, he's kind of like, he's like a pot smoking Masvidal.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a friend,
like a huge personality.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, you know, just has his own sense of charisma and charm. And also, I think some people like can't stand O'Malley for the same reasons. And I think Masvidal is the same character. Like, I have one of my neighbors, she's a big fight fan, and she can't stand Masvidal, but she loves O'Malley. And I'm like, they're the same person. Like, you can't. What are you talking about?
Can you believe when O'Malley was doing the air dribbling,
yes,
and then firing off, lead jabs and hooks? That was an incredible fight.
That was an incredible fight.
You are correct. He lost. Garbrandt lost his last fight, a decision to Rob Font.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Good call.
Know
that was back in May.
I think he's had a sticky. I mean, can we look up who's in the top in that division?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you know who should fight O'Malley? Is this 135? We're at 135, right?
Yeah.
Zabit should fight O'Malley.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be nasty. That'd be nasty. I'll put it in the email.
Oh, dear Uncle Dana.
A couple of notes on user interface and some fights I'd like to see, please. Yeah, I think I think Zabit and O'Malley would actually be a really great matchup because they both have different styles. They're both kind of like wild cards in their own way, and it would be really interesting to see that.
Yeah,
I would be super excited, and I love getting Dagestan into the game anytime we can.
I love Zabit is so much fun to watch.
Oh my god,
he's such a different fighter.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to watch. He always pulls something off that you're like, I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, if I'm having a bad day, I watch the fight with Zabit and Kyle Bochniak because it's just such a good fight. It's just so fun.
That's
so
a good call.
Yeah.
So here's the top 10 rankings right now. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling is holding the belt. Then it's Peter Yan. Then TJ Dillashaw. Cody Sandhagen. Rob Font is number 5. Marlon Moraes. Jose Aldo. Frankie Edgar still in the top 10. He is 8. Pedro Munoz. And then Cody Garbrandt is 10.
Wow.
And then beyond that, it goes Dominic Cruz. And we got Jimmy Rivera. And Sean O'Malley's top 15 now. Ricky Simons is in the top 20.
I forgot about
Cody Stamen.
Wow.
Casey Kenny.
Yeah. Casey Kenny's fighting soon, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, I think I think he might be fighting this weekend.
I think you are right. Yes, he's fighting Song.
Yeah.
Yadong Song.
Song Yadong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Song Yadong is ranked 18. So yeah, they're right there.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting.
It's maybe the most exciting division right now. It's so much fun. There's so much talent.
Yeah, 135, 145 is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Pretty nasty stuff. It gets a little bit more so as you go up higher. I wonder what's gonna do, what Usman is gonna do.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of questions at that weight class in general.
Do you think we'll see Gilbert Burns getting a title shot again within the next year or so?
I think if he does, it has to be when Kamaru retires.
Okay.
I don't think Kamaru will fight him again.
Yeah.
I think my guess is Usman's approach to it is, I'm going to knock off all of these guys. One time is enough. Like, I don't need to do it more than once. I want to knock off as many people as possible to prove my dominance, to prove, that I'm the greatest of all time at that weight class, and then retire. Like, that's what I think he wants to do.
Yeah. And isn't his next fight Covington?
Is it going to be Covington?
I think they're fighting again.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
I could see it. I mean, that's the only one that makes sense to do twice.
Yeah.
I think Burns, he has love for Burns. You know,
Yeah,
it's
truly.
gotta suck to beat up someone you love.
Mm-hmm. I was really hoping that Wonder Boy would pull out the win over Burns.
Yeah.
That was a great victory for Burns, but
Yeah.
I just really wanted to see Wonder Boy continue on this title tear. Like,
Yeah.
get one last shot because he's very near retirement.
Yeah, he's 37,
Yeah.
I think. 37, 38. I mean, he's in
Mhm.
fantastic shape,
Mhm.
though.
Yeah.
That guy's so solid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, Wonder Boy's a classic, and, you know, hard not to love that guy. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what the end of it looks like for Kamaru. I mean, I'm glad he's fighting Covington again. That's actually, like, an exciting...
I'm excited about it.
That's an exciting matchup for sure. I mean, it's always great when they really hate each other.
Uh-huh. And it's Covington. Like, that was the one fight that you got to see Covington get some kind of comeuppance where he gets his jaw broken.
I mean, again, with like the octagon,
Yeah.
knowing the karma hubris, and it returns it to you
Mm-hmm.
to mirror yourself to yourself in the
Yeah.
hopes that you will like change and take a
Mhm.
look at your shadow. I had this idea when the one fight night that you weren't able to make, we had one person there who had never seen the fights and
wow.
it was really fun. It was a MMA virgin.
Wow.
And yeah, really fun stuff. Can you imagine?
What was, and it was the Poirier McGregor night?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What a night.
Yeah, incredible start. And so I gave like a rundown of
Uh-huh.
all of the different fights, and I like gave some backstory to everyone, so everyone was like caught up on the same page. And I thought it would be hilarious to do like just like a voice memo subscription.
Yeah.
Like you would like sign up and you would just get like a text message of this like Jungian analysis of the MMA fights.
That'd be amazing.
Because I really do see a lot of like just that framework of understanding
Mhm.
something through like the persona and the shadow. I see that a lot in the fighting, and I think that's part of why I love
The
it,
shadow
because
self.
I
Mhm.
think that's like part of why they are my stories, because they are these incredible human
Mhm.
articulations, and they're just so clear, you know. And when Covington got his jaw broken, it was like, of course the octagon knows that he needs to break his jaw.
Mhm.
And that is like, what does he feel? I cannot wait for the interview with Covington 10 years from now,
Uh-huh.
when he explains and gives his perspective. I truly want to hear his feelings on all of this, like, and what it's been like to fake it to make it, you know, and for it to work, but also the cost. Like, I
Mhm.
can't imagine that there isn't a cost for him. Like, sure, there are some perks, but I'm just fascinated to hear what he has to say 10 years from now after having time to contemplate
Mhm.
everything that's transpired. So I look forward to that interview.
I'm curious if absolutely. I think
Yeah.
you're spot on, and I'm curious if it will have any resemblance to like a Chael Sonnen
Yeah.
arc, where a guy who made his living being a heel, but Chael was always that guy.
Yeah.
You didn't even feel like he was faking it.
Yeah.
But then retirement came, and then you're like, oh wait, that was all an act. Like, I remember watching Kobe Covington before he had a shtick.
Yes.
And he was a very nice, polite young man.
Mhm.
Like, it is so blatantly
Mhm.
a character he puts on.
Yes.
And it's so obnoxious,
Mhm.
but by design.
Yes, and it's effective. It's effective. I honestly can't like be that. I don't put a lot of energy towards disliking Colby Covington.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly feel like mostly fascinated at this point and have a lot of questions, because I know what he's doing is inauthentic. Like,
It's theater.
It's theater, which I respect in a certain way. I'm like, oh, I can understand why you did this. And he did it for his livelihood.
Yeah.
He did it for his family. He did it to make money. And, you know, people have done worse things
Sure.
for livelihood and
It's
money. So I just mostly think it's so interesting. I, of course, like, hate the things that he says and think that even as a heel, he's like kind of horrible at it.
Yeah.
You know?
He is kind of bad at it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not a good shtick, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't...
He's just taken the Trump playbook. Like, so
yeah,
obviously.
exactly.
Like
exactly.
the suit, the hat.
Yeah, yeah.
That's...
Yeah, it was fascinating.
He's not very good at it.
Yeah, he's not very good at it. And
he's just good enough that it is working.
Right, he's good enough that it's believable to the audience that he's going for, which is the audience to support him because they believe in those same ideals, but also the audience to hate him. Like the people who are, you know, who just tune it into the news just to hate watch, like whatever happened that day at the White House when he was still president. So, which I don't relate to. Like, I just don't. I think there's power. There's a lot of power in the attention that you give to things, the things you put your eyes on. And the more you look at something, the more power you give it. And I think that that's why we ended up where we did, you know, in America politically.
Let's end with next week's fights, or this week's fights, coming up Saturday. Uriah Hall against Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this fight. Once again, it's one of these fight nights that I kind of feel, okay, this is low stakes. I'm not going to get all worked up, which means I'm going to enjoy this way more than any other big deal fight nights. Really excited about this. Strickland is super tough. I imagine this is just no one's even going to go for a takedown unless someone gets rocked.
Yeah.
I see them just standing on their feet.
Banging the whole time.
Yep, just throwing bones at each other. The outcome that I would love to see Uriah Hall go on a tear right now because I want to see him fight Izzy.
Interesting.
Think that would be so much fun. I think it would be, they would both have the utmost respect for each other.
Right.
I would hope. I would hope that, I feel like Uriah Hall is such a gentleman in the sport, and he's just there as an artist, a martial artist, and a competitor. But he's got flashy striking, very creative on his feet. I would love to see what those two would do.
And Cannonier is fighting soon also. So
who's he fighting?
I can't remember. I think he's fighting the card after.
Exciting. Okay.
I think he's fighting the card after, and then the card after that is the next UFC card that I'm actually really upset about. It's the interim belt. And Amanda is the co-main.
Oh.
Rude.
How rude. Why isn't she the main?
Exactly. I think it's because it's for an I mean, they're both... It doesn't count. Like, it shouldn't count.
Yeah.
I hate it all. But I like that trajectory for Uriah. I can't remember what his age is, but I could see that being an interesting matchup. I do think that regardless, Izzy will find a way to talk shit. Just out of the nature of being Izzy. Or make some memes, which is fine, you know? I one time had a dream about Izzy.
Yeah?
Yeah. I had a dream that he was looking for, like, this piece of paper that had like, a quote on it, and he couldn't find it, and I found it for him, and it said, "Man is God afraid."
How interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to end on that.
Yeah.
Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Man is God afraid.
Afraid, yeah.
Awesome. Let's do this again soon.
Yes. Thanks so much for
having
having me.
This has been Hot Mike. We're out.